Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Pickleball Krewe. We are a group of pickleball fanatics based in southeast Louisiana and are passionate about all things pickleball everywhere. Our focus is to inform, acknowledge those who help build the game regionally, and promote tournaments in our area. We do our best to present this with a love of the sport, a sense of humor, and a lot of fun. So join Vicki Wynn, Ken Wynn, Jeff Fuchsia, and me, Bud Klein, in our latest episode. We are glad you are along for the ride. The Krewe opens this episode with a discussion of some of the challenges for tennis players transitioning to pickleball. Jeff has a lighthearted Burr under my saddle, and Vicki will share a shout out to one of our favorite home girls. Ken will wind us up with his previews of tournaments, local and regional. You'll notice that we've changed things up a bit. Let us know in the comments if you like it or not. Welcome to the 30th episode of the Pickleball Krewe. And Vicki, you brought up a topic that you've been looking into.
I've been seeing a whole lot more on help, tips, everything for tennis players transitioning from tennis to pickleball. And having Ken and I both come from a tennis background, we thought this might be a little bit interesting to go through. And I think we've been noticing more of Ken's friends from playing tennis, his tennis days, coming out to the pickleball court and sort of watching some of what they're doing and knowing that they're playing more tennis on a pickleball court versus understanding the nature of pickleball. And he and I both know the time frame that it took for us. We didn't have as much help back then, but how much time it took for us to realize a bunch of things. We thought we might share some tips today and help our friends maybe make that transition a little easier and a little quicker. And Ken, you had mentioned a few minutes ago about coming from paddle sports, and probably the majority are coming from tennis.
Yeah, it seems even at the top pro level, not to mention some of the top players at the local level, Lori Giroux, Terry Lamprez, myself, you, Vicki, we all came from growing up or long time playing tennis. And it really, I think of all the paddle racket sports, probably your biggest group of crossover or transition players are coming from tennis. I mean, there are a big group of people who are coming from a non-paddle racket sport as well. And it's great to have them, a part of the sport. But people with any kind of a paddle background, it seems tennis is probably the number one. And it's an easy transition. Those ground strokes that you learn in tennis, forehand, backhand, overhead, put away at the net, those all just transition so smoothly right to pickleball. But that's the positive side that gets you in the door quickly. But we're going to talk about some of the things that you've got to add to your repertoire and eliminate from some habits you need to eliminate to really succeed now in a pickleball world.
That's right. And you mentioned some of the ground strokes and the overhead and the put away at the net. Those are the similar times. I don't know if you guys can think of anything else that seems like it's very, very similar. I think the only other thing that came into my mind, other than ground strokes, moving in and hitting the ball out of the air was one area that I had thought of. And then one comment that you hear a lot for tennis players, and there's a few of you guys out there that just kill us with it, and that's the cross-court shot, the tennis cross-court shot that just is a put away. And Kevin Fair comes to my mind every time I think of somebody just either dropping it at the net or putting it away cross court, putting it away somewhere. Again, some of those strategies that you take from tennis and bring in, if you have that light touch, you're going to kill it in pickleball for sure.
Well, I know a couple of tennis players that I've talked to, and I remember having a brief conversation with Taylor Garcia. She said that playing singles pickleball was a lot easier to make that transition from tennis than doubles. She's admitted that she's had a little bit of a struggle with doubles, but playing singles was pretty much an easy transition for her.
Yeah, no doubt. It is definitely more similar than doubles.
Yeah, it's a great point, but singles pickleball is almost like playing singles tennis. And even now watching Ben Johns play, he really still incorporates a lot of the soft game back into singles, but early on you can have the success by keeping your opponent deep and moving them from corner to corner with your ground strokes, and being the first person to kind of come up to that no volley zone, and from there you kind of can control the point for the most part, unless you're playing against somebody with the talent of Ben Johns that can turn your hard shots back into drop shots, and then they can come up and play a neutral game with you. But singles is that's the first and easiest transition as a part of moving from tennis to pickleball.
It's funny though how, to me, you can take take singles and turn it into skinny singles, and you can get a lot of work on your doubles game in that, just by dividing the court in half and playing on half court. I know for me, I'm not the singles player, Ken, that you are, but when I did get in one tournament, I think it was West Feliciana, where I played in they did a skinny singles that year. And I was in that bracket with Bernard and Tony and I forget who else, Robert Mixon from Lafayette. But I was able to compete with some of those guys. I didn't win. I won a couple of games, but if it had been a singles match, I would have definitely been outmatched because their ground strokes would have just overpowered me. But it's the toughest transition we see it all the time. A high level tennis player in our realm at Pelican Park will come in. You can see those ground strokes, but they're lacking in the soft game. And that's what I would tell any of these tennis players coming in. The first thing immediately is start working on your soft game, because they show up at the court the first time and they have the ground strokes, the serves, that type stuff, the overheads, but it takes some time to really learn the soft portion of the game.
Right. And I think the other thing is, and I see it again, whether it's ground strokes or it's moving in from the transition zone, is we try to teach all the time. Pickleball is all about compact swings. And with tennis, we're so used to swinging and swinging out and swinging hard. And you really have to work hard to train yourself to get away from that and to learn those compact swings and to learn to hit the ball in front of you, not just always on side of you, because there's so many times you'll see tennis players turn to the side, move their paddles way back, and blink, and that ball is past them or something. So it's a definite transition to get used to compact and in front of you.
Yeah, that's a great point, Vicki. Whether you're at the baseline, even returning serve, or up at the no volley zone, trying to hit the ball out of the air, it's again, and we teach that to beginners who come from a tennis background, is pretend like your back is really against a wall, because you don't want that paddle to go past the side of you, and you really want to keep everything right in front of you, short, compact stroke, like you said. So that's a great point.
Yeah, that's when the ball's going back and forth fast, for sure. But when the ball's coming slow, the pendulum swing that we teach, that's you're not doing that playing tennis at all. And in pickleball, I would say, I think I would be okay with saying half the strokes in a longer rally, or that pendulum swing from down below, just lifting it up either with your forehand or backhand to get that ball lifted up and into the kitchen. So that's another tip for tennis players. Get with somebody, figure out the pendulum swing and what it means, and what the shot's designed to do and how to hit it, and get that incorporated into your game along with your good tennis strokes. And you'll quickly ascend, I think, up the ladder, improving quickly.
That's right. I mean, we even worked on that drop and pop for an overhead. I still struggle when I see that ball going way up in the air like that, not to do my tennis overhead. And
Yeah.
here I am trying to teach a dropping pop, but it is something to continue to work on because that can save your shoulder. There's no reason to have to hit it that hard. And it's just a matter of getting used to the ball. It's not coming down like a tennis ball does. So it's just getting used to taking that pause, let the ball get down a little bit more, again, out in front of you, and just wrist. And placement is easier when you do that. You have less of a risk of it going out the back end of the court when you do that. But that, again, is something very difficult for us tennis players to transition to.
Yeah, it's funny coming from a tennis background early on in my pickleball days. Let's go in tennis usually was like, let's get more topspin on the ball. Let's hit the ball hard. Let's hit those corners. And in some ways, let's go in pickleball is let's slow that ball down. Let's keep that ball in play. Let's hit the easy shot right in between the two players. So it's more controlled placement and much less power. Tennis is a lot more power. It's placement too, but it's a lot more power. And so it's almost a reverse mindset that let's go and let's get ready is to really calm yourself down. And unforced errors are important in both, but I think they're even more important in pickleball. So,
Well, Ken, correct me if I'm wrong, which I'm sure y'all will. I'm sure y'all will. But tennis is, I'm joking. Tennis is serve and volley, power. So power serve, and then, come in behind it, volley that next ball. Pickleball, from the start, the first couple of shots you hit, it's serve, and the next shot you hit is either normally a drop shot or try to have a precision drive with a fifth shot drop behind that to work your way up to the net. Tennis doesn't have that two bounce rule.
Yeah.
It's just a different, like you said, it's a different mindset from the get-go. I would much rather have, I think y'all said it in the beginning of this segment, a tennis player transitions better into pickleball to me than any other, racquetball, badminton, ping pong. All of that stuff transfers in, but it seems like the tennis players have an edge if they can just figure out some of the little keys here we're giving them. And the sooner you can figure it out, it's like you said, Ken, for us, back then we didn't really have anybody. We didn't know. I mean, we still don't have it all figured out, but now there's a lot more information out there, a lot more people around us to help and players make this transition.
Right. And I think if you think about tennis too and getting low to hit the ball, I think that's another thing that transitions pretty well. We were used to getting low on your ground strokes and different things like that. So just having that reminder that the pickleball does not bounce like a tennis ball for sure, and that you are at times going to have to be low to maintain your rally is kind of an easier thing for tennis, I think, too. So
yeah,
I think one of the things we just kind of brushed over it, but one of the biggest mistakes I've seen tennis players make in their transition is their inclination to serve and volley. And they get used to doing that in tennis, and you can't do that in pickleball. You got to let it bounce. I see a lot of tennis players make that mistake, and it takes them a while to get used to not doing that
Right.
serve and volley.
Very true.
well, and like you said, Bud, they serve and they take that step or two into the court, and the ball's coming back at your feet because you have to let it bounce. You can't take it out the air. And so you're moving in, you're backing up. Now your momentum is in reverse, and it's harder to hit a shot while you're moving backwards, much less the shot being at your feet.
I wasn't a big tennis player before I took up pickleball, but Ken, that was one of the hardest things I've learned is not taking a step in when you serve.
Right.
But serve and stay back and wait for that ball to come back at you. And it took me a while to really get in the habit of doing that. And now I don't do it very often. I still do it sometimes, but not very often.
And piggybacking off of what Jeff said a few minutes ago, in tennis, almost everybody held their serve. If your serve was broken, that was a big deal toward winning the set. Once you break the other person's serve, you have the advantage because holding a serve is really almost a given. And it's because the server has the advantage in tennis. You're hitting a hard flat or hard topspin serve as hard as you can. You're coming in right behind it. In pickleball, it's the opposite, even to the degree that the receiving team are now have the advantage because of the 2 bounce rule, and they've already have one player up at that no volley zone.
Yep. Yep.
So true. That's a great
But
point.
it's an opposite mindset that the sooner you go ahead and transition yourself to thinking like that and realizing that, because if you watch higher level pickleball, it's a lot of siding out because of the advantage that the receiving team has.
This is where the strategy of doubles, Ken, you and I were talking about that earlier, and I know Jeff and I had a conversation about it too with a lot of the tennis players on the pro level coming in and understanding how much of an advantage it is to being at that net, but then also learning to set up those shots for each other is just amazing to watch. And I think in a lot of ways it could be changing the game and making it even more sophisticated and more it gives you more reasons to truly understand the strategy of the game. And Ken, you were going to say?
One more comment on the serve. Coming from tennis where I had a big first flat serve, a big kick second serve, a serve was always to a good server. It was always to their advantage. Now you transition to pickleball, where in watching the videos and from what some of the early feedback I was getting, hey, it's just get the ball in play. It's just to start the point. And I had this mindset that I was going to try to not revolutionize, but really try to make the serve to my advantage, because it didn't seem to be to the advantage of most servers. So I tried to really put a lot of topspin and side spin on my serves early on. I think early I went too much with it. It got me into a little bit of trouble. I was very inconsistent. I've kind of backed off, but I still think I have, with a little topspin, anybody with a little topspin, a little side spin can still have somewhat of an advantage, especially it's moving your opponent around, mixing your serves up, even a lofty serve. So trying to use different serves in pickleball, you can still get maybe at times a little bit of an advantage.
But not as much as you would think you would get, like you do in there, Ken, is, and I don't know if y'all have noticed, and y'all play with me probably more than anybody. There for a while, I would do some harder serves. Then I would try maybe a little bit of slice, maybe a lob. And I was mixing it up so much that I wasn't in a good rhythm. And I just had a lot more serves going out than what I wanted. So I've kind of settled in. I'll still do some of that. But the most important thing for people, and these tennis players too, get the ball in play on your serve. I heard Lori made the comment today, just joking with somebody, hey, you got to get your serve in. And yeah, I think if you focus on just getting that serve in, you're giving your team a good chance to win that point, because you're not going to win a whole. You got a really good serve, Ken, and you score a few points on it here and there, or get a short return. And I think you should continue doing that. But it's not like something, man, I'm going to focus on my serve because I'm fixing to get me 5 points per game. That's not going to happen against high-level players. It might happen against little Susie and little Joey, as we say, but it's not going to happen against high-level players. They're going to get that serve back.
Right. Well, and if you guys thought his pickleball serve was tough, I probably either needed to climb the fence or get a ladder to try to hit his tennis serve.
He's a condor, Vicki. He's a
No,
condor.
The kickback on his serve would go like so far over my head. I'd be like, who are you playing? A giant or what? This did not even just happen. I can't even play with you.
I'm going to tell you what, when he's got that topspin serve working, I have never had anybody that I had a harder time with than that serve.
Yeah.
Jody is an excellent server. He puts a lot of power and topspin on his serve. But the other thing in tennis, you get that second chance. In pickleball, you don't get a second chance to get your serve in. So that's another reason to kind of be a little more conservative. You can't score points if you don't get your serve in. So
I never thought about that.
That's a really good point, Ken.
Yep.
That's a huge, that's got to be a huge something that people, when they make that transition, they don't even think about. It's like, oh, I can get another serve if I don't mess this one up.
Right.
Yeah, that would probably change things. I'm sure it would in pickleball. Heck, you
Oh,
can
absolutely.
try to roll a winner on that first one or catch a corner or something. You got to attack it. But when you only got one shot at it, you want that serve going in.
That's
Well,
right.
look how much it changed things when they took the lead away.
Yes.
From pickleball.
Yeah.
That really changed a lot.
Yeah.
To me.
So there's one other thing I want to mention that I think we all see a bit too. And we talked about serving and moving in on it, even return a serve and that sort of thing. And that is rushing too fast and running into the next shot. You get yourself stuck. And so we see people do that a lot because, again, it's such a different game from tennis to pickleball. And it's not always the best idea to just rush right in on the shot when maybe you did a drive and it's coming back at you harder than you sent it. You see that a lot. People running into that next shot.
I don't know, Ken. Do they teach you when you're coming to the net and the ball's coming at you? Do they teach you to stop before you try to hit it, or?
Yeah, in tennis, you would split step as well. So you're ready to either take it off a bounce or take it out of the air. It's very similar to pickleball that you want to kind of split step the second the ball crosses the net and lands. In pickleball, that ball gets back across the net because the court is
a lot shorter.
Yeah, well, a tennis court is 78 feet long. A pickleball court is 44 feet. Is that right? 44 feet
44.
from baseline to base. That's almost half the size. And so there's less, that pickleball get back to you in under a second, a half a second, especially if you hit a hard flat serve and you're trying to, or you hit a hard flat return, and you're trying to follow your return in, and then they come back with another hard shot. That ball just goes back and forth quickly.
Yeah, I know. I've been trying to teach myself to stop when the other person's getting ready to hit the ball. Mm-hmm. Don't wait until they hit the ball to stop. Stop coming in when they're getting ready to hit it.
Well, and
I don't know what they do in tennis.
That's another good tip for our new tennis players that are coming in is to split step sooner because you don't have as much time as you do on the tennis court. Right. And if you do hit a third shot drive, split and be ready behind it because it's you hit that drive as we've all done and we're off balance and then the ball's getting back to you really quick. So that's I think that's a good tip for tennis players is really focus more on your split step or doing it quicker than what you would in the tennis application.
And in those earlier days, we always see the swinging and missing because we just think we have more paddle and more room or more time. There's a lot of things that are just sized differently, like from the court, as you guys just mentioned, to the paddle. The speed of the ball is different. There's so many little different things that, again, I'm going to just stress drilling as a good option. And it's dinking, it's volleying, it's all the different things that help your hand-eye coordination change to a very different ball and paddle, and your timing is going to be better. I just can't say enough about the beginners trying to get into a little drill mix too, not just running out there trying to play games.
Well, Vicki, that just makes me think about knowing now what I didn't know 3 years ago, but when and if I will be coaching tennis players coming in, some of the first drills that I'm going to put them in, it's going to be incorporated in is fast to slow, back, fast to slow again, back and forth, because that gave me so much trouble the first couple of years that I played and still does, of course, every now and then, but I'm a lot better at it now. If I'd have had somebody take me in the beginning and start me off, I'd be further down the road on that. So
Mhm.
that's something that I would focus on as a tennis player is going slow to fast. Take a few balls and drive them, but then slow a few down. Then maybe drive one or two, slow a few down, step in a little bit, slow one down, go back, and drive one, and just do those different speeds because
Right.
the players that we know that are the better players, they can seamlessly transfer themselves from that fast game to the slow game. Those are the
No doubt.
players that some of our better players that we play with.
And they talk a lot out there too. I hear tennis players say, well, they say that pickleball is going to ruin my tennis game. Or you hear the vice versa. Well, I kind of stopped playing tennis because pickleball. Here again, I'm going to go back to Kevin Fair, who plays
Yeah,
tennis and pickleball,
was just
and
thinking
who
about him.
obviously transitioned beautifully. He knows how to speed the ball up when it needs to be sped up. He knows how to slow the ball down. So his judgment of pace of the ball and everything else, just an incredible athlete. And he's just got a really good game that we could all learn from for sure.
And I'm sure he's a good tennis player.
Yes, Ken would know.
Yeah, Kevin's a solid 4040 plus 4045 tennis player. But even young Evan say young Evan, he's what, 28? He was on the pro
Young.
tour as a tennis player. Jay
Really?
Barsnick, tennis player. Yeah, Evan
I
was
didn't know
trying
that.
for a while. Top level tennis player. Taylor Garcia, you mentioned, was All
Yeah.
American, played number one for universities, and even a lot of the top pros that are out there now transitioning over. I bet 9 out of 10 come from a tennis background and were All American at the collegiate level and are making the transition. So,
And we always keep saying it's going to be interesting to see where pickleball goes with the influence down the line. And like I say, the strategy, we've watched it grow and change. We've heard them ask Ben Johns what he thinks and the future of pickleball. And just, it again goes back to shots, creating new opportunities, developing those strategies with your partner. Jeff, you and I had a good conversation today about the strength and validity there is in keeping and maintaining the partner and learning through the years with the same partner. And, you can look at those changes, read off on those changes, work through them, and try to develop as much as you can. But I think it's going to be exciting and interesting. I know that there's two pros right now that just jumped right out of tennis and went into pickleball, and they're doing fabulous. So fun to watch.
and I think the influx of tennis players as a whole has sped up the ball in the game of pickleball, just generally speaking. I think they're learning the soft side to it, but I think they're still keeping a lot of their solid ground strokes down the line, across or down the
Mhm.
middle, low, right over the lowest part of the net. And so I think they've sped the game, just my opinion, sped the game up just a little bit overall.
No, I think you're right, Ken. But it also is to our point about I think we get some tennis players that come in and they're playing with, say, some lower level people, and their tennis strokes, these people just can't handle it. So they win against those people. But that's fool's gold. That's
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
fool's gold. Once you get up against upper level players
Right.
that know how to take pace off the ball, now those tennis players, and I'm saying those tennis players, we've all found out you might did well playing 4 or 5 games against weaker players, and man, you're ripping winners down the line and up the middle
Mm-hmm.
and this and that. Then you get against those higher level players, and those shots don't work anymore. So,
Mm-hmm.
tennis players, be aware of that. Be aware of who you're playing. You're playing in that little pond, and then you get out in the big ocean and find out, hey, there's players out here that can handle this pace. They slow us down and almost make you look like a fool. So
Right. Right.
don't get caught up in that if you're
Mhm.
winning, thinking, hey, this is how to play pickleball, because it's not. It's good to have those things, but you better have the slow game if you're wanting to proceed up the ladder. You need both, in my
Right.
opinion.
And Ken, let me ask you, because I'm thinking about how much, here we're talking about slowing the ball down, and how much defense, being on the defense, having a strong defensive, block and different things like that. It seems like you really do need a lot more of that in pickleball than tennis, but it's been such a good while for me playing tennis. Does it seem like that's a valid observation?
That you need more of it in pickleball than tennis? Yeah, tennis is probably a more offensive game than pickleball. But like I see a John Priola, and I played against John Priola years back in tennis, and John's style in tennis and pickleball, John was a backboard on the tennis court and more of a defensive player, and he's a backboard on the pickleball court. So some of that is style, but I think generally speaking, I think you're right. I think tennis is a little more driving the ball to the corner and being offensive, and pickleball is a little more safer defensive, making the smart shot.
I guess the big thing here is just to encourage tennis players to truly keep their eyes open about what the differences are between the two, and don't be afraid to ask for help. The other thing is drill. Become super familiar with those things that maybe if you've got that big swing, get in a drill that helps you practice a more compact swing. Learn to slow the ball down, slow your mind down, but really focus on the differences and see where your strengths lie in your game.
But that's almost an oxymoron. Pickleball is such a fast-paced game when you're in the middle of the point, but you tell yourself, slow down.
Jeff was saying it's fast, and then slow it down.
Yeah.
I think it's the hardest part of the game for all of us.
I agree.
Well, but I mean, you talk to tennis players, and some of the ones I've talked to, they've said the biggest difficulty in transitioning is that pickleball is such a faster game. It's more compact, and you don't have to run around as much as you do in tennis, but it's still the pace is just faster. You don't have as much time to think about your next shot.
Well, and that's another reason why that the first thing we teach is not to overswing at the no volley zone.
Right.
Because the second you overswing, you're not ready for that ball coming back. Your paddle's way up here.
Exactly.
And so it's taking a compact swing that you're ready for your next shot. No, those are all good points. That's a good recap. Learn the pendulum swing, learn the soft game, and make your swing much more compact when you're on the pickleball court. And those things will help you with some early success as you develop that muscle memory.
Hey. Ken, thanks for that wrap up. And it's time now for Jeff and his Burr Under My Saddle.
You're Burr under my saddle. Your thorn sticking in my side.
All right, people. But don't laugh. Don't laugh now until this is serious. Tennis players. You come into the game, you play a little pickleball, and then you say, oh, well, the tennis is messing up my pickleball. Or I've heard the pickleball players say, man, the pickleball is messing up my tennis. People, what kind of athlete are you that something like that can mess you up? I'd be embarrassed to say that. You're a better athlete than that, people. You can these two sports are very similar. Stop it. Stop doing that. Pick one, pick both of them, but don't say one's messing the other up, because I don't think it is. And that's this week's Burr Under My Saddle. And I could be wrong, but that just, I don't know, it's just a little burr under my saddle.
Thanks, Jeff. Jeff, I just like the way you say people. That's what gets me every time. It's beautiful.
I want to make sure every week and get everybody's attention.
I like that. I mean, it's just every time you say it, it's just
Everybody out.
Yeah.
On that note, I've actually heard, and Kevin Fair, I think, was one that said that hitting the ball slower up at that no volley zone and controlling it more actually helped him when he went back playing tennis and got into a little bit of a volley up toward the net. Because in tennis, that's where in doubles, your four people get up to the net, and then you've got a similar kind of a exchange that you would in pickleball. There is just no line that you have to stand behind. And he said it really helped him kind of slow things down and control them a little bit better.
Yeah.
So
And Ken, me as well as anybody, I'm not big on excuses. If you want to be a better tennis player, work on your tennis game. Don't blame it on pickleball and vice versa. If you're a good enough athlete, we know if you're a good enough athlete to play pickleball, you can play tennis and probably play it decently. If you play tennis, when you come into pickleball, you can be a good pickleball player. So just people, stop with the excuses. Stop it. Stop it.
Vicki actually saw a video of a pickleball pro using a tennis racket to dink in the no volley zone because the ball comes off the racket, the strings, with more force than it comes off the paddle. It teaches you to slow things down even more.
Yeah. I'm going to tell y'all something for me. And look, I'm 5 years in, and I feel like I'm just figuring this out in the last 3 to 4 months, and I'm getting better at it. Making that transition when I start coming up to the line, I got to take a lot off of it to hit a successful dink, to keep it and make it bounce in front of the other team. Because when we don't make the ball bounce in front of people, a lot of times that's where we're paying the price. And it really, for me, talking about going from fast to slow, I'm getting better at that. And I want to get a lot better at it. And it's something I think we all need, the four of us need to focus on. It's going to make us better pickleball players.
Yep.
Anytime we're in trouble, Vic, anytime we're in trouble, if we can make the ball bounce in the other team, we're going to come out of that all right a lot of times versus giving that volley. So we need to make that a coaching point from here on out.
All right. And now it's time.
Hey, Bud, I've got a shout out. All righty, Bud, I've got one today, and we actually mentioned her in this segment, and the perfect segment for her as well because it's transitioning from tennis to pickleball. And that is that I heard from Connie Garcia this morning, and we're so proud of Taylor, and we want to try to keep up with everything that's going on with her. But and I do appreciate Connie letting me know. But the new PPA Tour player rankings came out today, evidently, or yesterday, whenever they just came out. And as you mentioned, Bud, her doubles is a little bit more of a struggle for her, and she's hovering in the 50s. But in singles, this is just so unbelievable to me. She is now ranked number 15. And she is right under Hurricane Tyra Black, and she is right above Georgia Johnson. And Elise Jones is number 18, and Taylor's number 15. So Taylor was so proud of you. We wanted to give you a shout out. That is amazing. Amazing. Yep. She started in May, March.
That's incredible. That is something that's really something because I mean she's only been playing since she hadn't even been playing pros for a year. She hadn't even been playing pickleball for a year yet.
Right.
She started in April.
That bodes well.
May to me, but
I was just going to say that bodes really well for her when you talk about the people that are just above her and just below her. There's no telling where Taylor's doubles game will be in a year or two.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
that's right.
So
that is right. She finished making that transition to it. It's going to be. Mm-hmm.
You could be looking at a top 10. We could be looking at a top 10 women's mixed or women's doubles player in her if she can go on to the right.
Get her some good partners. All right, Vicki, thanks for that shout out. And boy, I'm really impressed with Taylor, and I hope she continues to do well. Hot off the press, it's time for Ken's tournament previews.
Thanks, Bud. Let's go 2024, January 13th. This is a new one. It's called the Smoke and Stroke. It's going to be at the Exchange in New Orleans. We're going to put a URL. We're going to put the application on the screen. Terry Lamprez is putting this together. I think it's a one-day tournament at the Exchange in New Orleans, the Smoke and Stroke on January 13th. 2 weeks later, January 27th, this is Checkmate It's a fundraiser for the Bayside Academy chess team. It's going to be at W.O. Lott Park, and it's $30 per person. This is mixed doubles only. Again, checkmate, January 27th. February 2024, February 13th through 15th is the Pickleball Jamboree. This will be at the Foley Event Center, Foley, Alabama. Look at pickleballbrackets.com. Registration has opened. Again, that's February 13th through 15th. February 23rd through 25th at the Canebrake Country Club in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. It's the Canebrake Pickleball Tournament. There's 12 brand new outdoor courts. Richie is the pro there. And so go to pickleballbrackets.com as far as registering for the Canebrake Tournament. 1 week later, February 27th, through March 3rd, is Paddles at the Plex. This is the spring Paddles at the Plex in Opelika, Alabama. Registration opens December 18th for that tournament. That's always a lot of fun playing in Opelika. Let's go to March. We have 2 new tournaments in March. March 15th through 17th at Pops Ferry in Biloxi, Mississippi is going to be the Mississippi Senior Games. This year is a qualifying year, so they'll have both mixed doubles, gender doubles, and singles. Singles are typically played on the Friday. So go to pickleballbrackets.com. It's not listed yet, but just save the date. The same weekend is Paddles on St. Patrick's Day at Mandeville, Louisiana at Pelican Park. So you've got 2 tournaments to choose from. Registration has not yet opened for that, but as soon as we'll put the URL at the bottom of the screen so you can save the date. 1 week later, March 22nd through 24th, is the Pickle and the Dell at Crossgates Country Club in Slidell. This will also be, at least last year, it was on pickleballbrackets.com. It's not yet out there yet, but keep looking and again, save the date. The following weekend, March 29th, 30th, Alabama Open, Clay, Alabama. Has a great facility to play there. We've played that tournament 2 different years and had a great time. Very competitive, very competitive. Going to April 12th through 14th, back to Hattiesburg, Mississippi. It's the Young Life Organization and the USM Wesley Foundation. This is Marlena Martis is running this tournament for these 2 organizations. Friday the 12th will be open play and family day. The 13th will be gender doubles. The 14th, mixed doubles. Pickleballbrackets.com to register. Also the same weekend, April 12th through 14th, is the Alabama Senior Games back in Opelika, Alabama. I don't think registration has opened yet for that. And finally, April 20th, 21st, Greenwood, Mississippi, is the 2nd annual Dinking in the Delta. Let's see. This is also pickleballbrackets.com. You're guaranteed 3 matches. There's basically be 2 levels, 3-5 and under, 4-0 plus. Gender doubles on Saturday, mixed doubles on Sunday. So that's it for tournament preview. Back to you, bud.
All right, thanks, Ken, for those tournament previews. Now, if nobody has anything else, I think it's time to say goodnight. Good night, everybody.
Night, everybody.
See you on the courts.
Hey, from the Pickleball Crew, thanks for watching, and we'll see you all next week.
Thumbs up.
Bye.
Well, that's it for this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave any comments and please like and subscribe to our channel. Thanks again and see you next week.